Concur does what might...
Y'all got YouTube rolling?
It makes employees happy.
Hi, YouTube.
How? Well, employees love automated expense reports and invoices they can submit and approve from anywhere. And Dab and Graph?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Who's this Dab guy?
He's our LSU rider.
Okay. For NOLA.com?
Yeah.
Expense, travel,
Dave,
invoice.
Dave.
And who's this Graphicanino guy?
You know that this is not efficient because you know there's a better way.
Some guy I found on the street.
There's also a better way to say.
Yeah, some homeless guy on Tulane Avenue or something. Hangs out at the defunct Naked Pizza joint.
Oh, okay.
Buy in bulk and save up to
just
20% on concrete, gypsum,
what you say goes on
10
YouTube, so just a heads up.
Okay. So 10:30 and then 10:45, right?
Right.
details.
And
Discount
we won't
applies to
start playing
contractor pack
sound
items. Minimum
until like
purchase
the
required.
11
U.S.
o'clock
only.
You can infuse your food
All right.
of sweet applewood or bold hickory, or you can infuse it with gas or charcoal. Probably not the most delicious option. Traeger grills use real 100% hardwood fuel to grill, smoke, bake, braise,
Well, I
roast,
might lie.
and barbecue
Maybe
your
we'll
food
play it
to
after the
juicy
first
perfection.
segment.
And that is the key.
What a shock.
Moisture in. You don't dry anything out when you in one versatility. Flavor that gas and charcoal
All right, 30 seconds.
can't compete with. Plus, they're so easy to use. You just turn the dial, you set the temperature. You can even use an app. You can control it from your phone if you want to. Can't decide on what to make? They've got hundreds of wood-fired recipes on their website to choose from. Go to TraegerGrills.com/recipes to get a little inspiration. So get cooking with the best wood-fired food that you can imagine. Visit your local Traeger dealer. They spell it Traeger. Find the one nearest you at TraegerGrills.com/dealer.
All right, here we go.
Today.
Dunc and Holder back at you on a Monday. 2 weeks of shows down, starting week 3 of Dunc and Holder here at Sports 1280, NOLA.com, the iHeartRadio app. As we're broadcasting live from the Pelicans media room on Airline Drive. Of course, the Pelicans air all of their games on our sister station, 99.5 WRNO. And Jeff, we had a chance to go out to catch probably the first 25 minutes of practice. And right now, they're in day 3 of pads, and yesterday was a marathon, brutal practice. I don't want to proclaim that as being one of the tougher practices I've seen in a long time for the Saints, but it was a tough practice. And just by that, you have some guys who have sat out today's practice. Most notably, who is not out on the practice field right now is cornerback Delvin Breaux. Actually, Marshawn Lattimore has taken the ones reps as they're going through team drills right now. And, Jeff, we're going to go through some of our takeaways over the last few days because, unlike today, the last 2 days we got to watch all of practice and kind of get some evaluations. And as news kind of happens, we will bring it to you on the show as we're following our colleagues, Josh Katzenstein, Herbie Teope, Amos Morale, all out there as well. But, Jeff, just your perspective over – let's just go to yesterday's practice because, like I said, it was that marathon practice where it was a lot of hitting, a lot of nerves. Yeah, I thought it was very tough. Yeah,
I thought it was one of the toughest practices I've ever attended just because of the heat and the length of it, right? What was it, close to 3 hours?
Just about 3 hours.
Yeah, it was like the Bataan Death March out there. It was brutal, and anybody that says otherwise is crazy. The players had to be suffering. How many guys do we see go off with cramps of some sort? They were given veterans days off to Jack Streif and Adrian Peterson and a number of other players. And you could see the frustration started sinking in late in the practice. There were a bunch of little skirmishes that broke out. That was a tough one, man. That was a grinder. And thank goodness today there's a little cloud cover out there because yesterday there was not one cloud in the sky. And it was triple-digit heat index the entire time.
Yeah, Saturday's practice was the first padded practice, and the clouds covered it. It was as pleasant as you could have gotten, and then conversely, the next day it was about as steamy and hellish as you could have gotten. And like you said, people were leaving practice. You could tell they were cramping up. Stefan Anthony, it looked like he was cramping up yesterday, but he's back on the practice field, so that's good. To me, I think Delvin Breaux, like I said, he's not practicing right now. It might be something of that nature. He looked like he was dealing with some heat toward the end of practice, so maybe that's let's scale back on him for a day, especially because tomorrow is an off day. So I'm wondering how long today's practice is actually going to go. And we're just a heads up, we're going to hear from all kinds of coaches and players on the show from some interviews that were conducted throughout the weekend. We're going to hear from Sean Payton. We're going to hear from defensive coordinator Dennis Allen. We're going to hear from Adrian Peterson, who is back on the practice field after a veteran day off. Zach Streep as well, Manti Te'o as well. But Kenny Vaccaro we're going to hear from, and we're also going to hear from Cam Jordan. And we want to hear from you, 504-260-1280. If you came out to practice, what was your perspective on things? And I wrote a column for our Sunday paper, and that first practice, the weather cooperated, and it seemed like a really festive atmosphere, and fans that I talked to immediately brought up that, okay, they're back and they're playing in like the kind of heat that they played in yesterday, and it won't make them soft like the Greenbrier. That was a uniform reaction, and actually Kenny Vaccaro had a pretty interesting answer when I asked him about it on Saturday. And it's something to where I think Kenny almost agrees. Like, we need to be in this and we need to be tough, because the last time they played in this sort of stuff was in 2013. And he's like, look, we weren't gassed in that week 1 game against Atlanta when we knocked the ball out, saved the game, right, and won that game, and they won 5 straight.
He did mention that. That's true. I tend to think that's just coincidental. We'll see. I mean, if the team wins this year, it's not because they trained in Metairie, in my opinion, and the team didn't lose last year because they trained in West Virginia. It's just the way things worked out. I personally don't buy into any of that, but I do think it's good to have the home fans here. It certainly energizes the team. There is some degree of mental toughness that you gain by being out there. But as much as anything, talking to the people on the staff that deal with the football operations staff, it's just a better setup for them. There's much less hassle for them trying to, you know how the Greenbrier was laid out. The hotel itself was pretty far away. Half the staff was in Lewisburg, and they're trucking back and forth. I mean, logistically, it wasn't easy. This is much easier for them because everything's right here on site.
Yeah, and the one thing I know Sean Payton brought up, they had to build a kind of a cold room, but that was something that they were going to do, and they absolutely need the cold room. There's no question about it. But we're getting to the point where we're 4 practices in, and we're starting to get a little bit of indication. I would almost prefer to wait till the end of this week, and you could start getting some, okay, this guy has had a good week of practices, because we're going to hear from Sean Payton. He mentioned after the first 2 padded practices some players that stood out. Of course, he's looking internally at the offensive and defensive lines and the linebackers. You get a better idea of that when you throw the pads on. I think yesterday I did offensive standouts during yesterday's practice, and I thought the running backs looked good. There was no Adrian Peterson. Mark Ingram looked good. Alvin Kamara looked good, so that's obviously a plus. But you're going to start to get a better idea really after tomorrow's off day, and you got 5 straight days of practice, where this team may start looking at one spot, maybe scaling back at another spot, and it's just kind of the nature of camp.
Yeah, and I think today they're going to do a little tackling. I think Sean indicated that yesterday, but early on you could tell the practice was very light, letting these guys get their legs back under them. This is the time of camp where they start kind of those legs start kind of giving out. And like you said, they use that cold room to try and recover from a day like yesterday. But Delvin Breaux's not out there today. There's going to be guys coming and going throughout camp like that. And someone like Marshawn Lattimore can take advantage of that, get those extra reps with the first-team defense, because right now he's been working primarily with the second-team defense. P.J. Williams is the other starting corner. but it's a chance for Lattimore to get some work with the starters, and he needs to take advantage of it. They only have so many reps that they can showcase to the coaching staff right now. With 90 players out there, the reps are kind of rare.
Right, and with Lattimore right now, he's been with the first-team defense. Now, he'll come in and play if they're going nickel, and he'll be the third corner. I think you're going to see that a lot when Bro and when PJ are out there. And they look outside of today. Look, PJ's been out there every rep, so that's a good sign. But yeah, I think it's an excellent point that today, in particular, Lattimore's going to get all the 1 reps, and that's something they need to see. They need to see if he's ready to go, and obviously they want him to be ready to go. Let's line up the rest of the show here real quick. It's not going to be all Saints talk because look. College football, their training camp practices are underway. I could tell you Uptown, Tulane, I think they're already done practice number 1. And our good buddy Todd Grappanini, of course, he's the voice of the Tulane Green Wave right here on Sports 1280 for football and basketball. We're going to have the graph on at 10:45. Before that, we will head up to Baton Rouge for LSU talk. LSU Saints beat LSU beat writer, formerly on the Saints beat, our buddy Chris Dabe, who covers the team for us at NOLA.com and the Times-Picayune. He will join us at 10:30. And Jeff, I know you chimed in on Twitter last night, and it's been a big buzz among our peers how Ed Orgeron has completely closed off media to every portion of practice. And I understand where some fans come from, where it sounds like media whining, this and that. But there are plenty of people who like to know who's actually practicing. Like, even if, isn't it, they used to give like 20 minutes or something? And if, just to get roll call, just so you know who's out there, you're not getting scheme and you're not getting this. I mean, people like that information and spend good money on LSU football, and they'd like to have something to kind of chew on, and doesn't sound like that's going to be the case up in Baton Rouge this early, late summer going into early fall.
It's a surprising decision, don't you think? I mean, we talked to Coach O last week. He's been very media friendly throughout his short tenure in Baton Rouge. He's embraced the media. He never turns down an interview. He opened practices last year during the interim basis. So there's got to be some strategy in mind. He's not saying right now what it is. I think it's probably has maybe 2 reasons. The Matt Canada offense he probably wants to keep under wraps early on. Doesn't want a lot of reporting on what Canada's doing. And maybe it has to do with Arden Key. I don't know why that would be a factor, but I've had some people mention that. I wouldn't be surprised if he reverses that decision soon. Maybe there's something early on he wants to hold back on. But he hasn't got a lot of positive publicity from, as you can imagine, by closing this practice. And as I said last night on Twitter, I just think this whole thing's so overrated. Coaches get paranoid. They worry about things that have nothing to do with winning and losing, and closing a practice or opening it to the media has never won or lost a game for a head coach. They're just overthinking and overanalyzing, like they're prone to do in a sport where you have 7 days between games, and coaches start thinking about every little thing that can hurt them or be an advantage for them. And I think that's one thing that Sean Payton has learned in his tenure as the Saints head coach. He was so difficult to deal with from a media standpoint early in his tenure, probably the first half of his tenure and maybe even two-thirds of it. I think he's much more open to some degree.
To some degree.
Not on injuries and things that he feels like is an advantage, but as far as just, not worrying about every T crossed and I dotted with the media relations part of it. I mean, that stuff, I just think he was a young coach, and he was used to working in markets like Philadelphia and Dallas.
And coming
and
straight from Parcells.
Right, in Parcells. He was used to working where these Shark Tank media markets, and it was so competitive, he had to kind of drop the hammer. And I think he's realized over time here in New Orleans, it's not the same environment, and he can kind of loosen the reins a little bit.
And all you have to see is we're comparing Sean Payton's ways to Ed Orgeron's ways, and you said maybe this can change for Coach O. But I will say, look, Sean Payton has been pretty open about allowing plays to be recorded. All you got to go to is our colleague Amos Morale on Twitter, at Amos_Morale3, and you could watch practice almost instantaneously because he's recording plays and you're getting to see the ins and outs, and that will continue until the first preseason game, and then it kind of drops off. But that's fine. I mean, you're getting more access away from it than we've ever have, and honestly, I think they at least Saints at least deserve some kudos for letting that go down.
Look, the NOLA.com feed on practice, it's incredible. All you have to do is go back through at the end of the day, and you will feel like you were at practice. Those guys, our team, aren't missing a thing. It's amazing the amount of coverage that goes into a practice. And while it's blanket coverage, you also have to step back sometimes and realize, look, Peyton said it yesterday, we're now, 4 or 5 practices in. It's still early in camp, so these blanket Brandon Coleman looks great. Alvin Kamara looks great. I mean, things can turn in a week and go south, so you just have to kind of temper your enthusiasm a little bit because it's a long preparation phase. We've still got 4 preseason games to go through. So you don't want to jump to conclusions too early.
Absolutely. 504-260-1280 is the number to get involved in the show. We will take your phone calls throughout some of the show. Throughout most of the show, other than our 2 guests. So we'll sprinkle in your thoughts about the first few days of Saints camp. We're live here at the Pelicans Media Center here on Airline Drive. And coming up next segment, we'll hear from Sean Payton. We'll hear from Adrian Peterson on some of the marathon practice session that happened yesterday and how they're kind of spilling over into this one. And then don't forget, 10:30, we'll have Chris Dabe from NOLA.com, the Times-Picayune, covers LSU. We'll go up to Baton Rouge. And then 10:45, the voice of the Tulane Green Wave, my good buddy and Jeff's good buddy, Todd Graffinini. He will come on as he has just watched Tulane's first practice of the early goings before the start of the season. So Sports 1280, NOLA.com, and the iHeartRadio app. We're Dunc and Holder.
What is this, salt and pepper?
This is Josh Innes.
Let's see.
Noon until 2.
We don't need a ton here, I don't think.
Sports 1280.
Goodbye. Love you. Bye.
New Orleans.
They might be able to just put that one straight in.
If you're a pro, you know that this is not efficient because you know there's a better way. There's also a better way to save. When pro customers buy building supplies in bulk at Lowe's.
All right, so we got 2 minutes, and then we'll take a break around 30 or so to call Chris.
Yes.
All right.
Yeah.
ProDesk or LowesForPros.com for details. Discount applies to contract and pack items. Minimum purchase required. U.S. only.
Driver to driver.
Yeah, that's why I started playing the music. I didn't want y'all to run too long on the first
time.
It totally fits around your schedule, so you can earn whenever you have time. Maybe that's before breakfast on Sunday. Maybe that's after work on Mondays. It's totally up to you. That's the best part. Here's the other equally best part. With Uber,
all right, Peyton and Jordan.
Paid whenever you want. So get your side hustle.
Si, senor.
.com/drive now. That's UBER.com/drive now.
Hi, Tom Bodette. According to the dad bod craze, the lumpy, less than chiseled look is now totally in. So you could say I'm in the best shape of my life. And so is Motel 6. They've updated their properties nationwide with contemporary everything, still for the same low price you've come to expect. So your wallet can feel a little pleasantly plump, too. I'm Tom Bodette, and we'll leave the light on for you. Book online at motel6.com.
Greetings, Detective. Did you catch our bad guys?
My last big case was the Mercedes killer.
From the mind of Stephen King.
This guy's really trying to get into your head, isn't he?
Having bad thoughts, Detective.
An all-new AT&T original series.
This is our guy.
We've both got vengeance on the brain.
10 seconds.
Mr. Mercedes premieres August 9th at 8, only on Audience, DirecTV Channel 239, and streaming on DirecTV Now.
This is Dunc and Holder on Sports 1280, New Orleans.
Jeff Dunc and Larry Holder here back at the Pelicans Media Center here on Airline Drive, broadcasting live over here as the Saints are practicing on the fields currently. And we are going to dive into what some of the coaches, Sean Payton, what some of the players are saying about having practices back here and really the physicality of what's going on. And Jeff and I were talking about it in the first segment, just how, the practices, especially yesterday, and from all accounts from our colleagues today, it is a physical practice once again. And it's almost like maybe internally they want to make it tough, and then it's externally outside of the building, the perception that they're back here in New Orleans in the heat is making them tough. And some of the people, some of the fans I talked to, they said, look, I've got friends who are Texans fans, and I'm just going to warn them they're going to be soft this year. But so, hey, maybe it's playing up to that perception. I don't know. Me and you, Jeff, we could look at it in the last 3 years basically saying the Saints just weren't good enough. It didn't matter where they practiced. But maybe this does something to them psychologically. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, look, who knows, right? People are looking for reasons to find out why the team went 7-9. I just have a hard time believing that. I think the injuries that they suffered last year have a hell of a lot more to do with it than where they trained. I always bring up the point, and I think Sean Payton mentioned this before when they decided to go to West Virginia, that in the heyday of the Bill Walsh, Joe Montana era of the 49ers, they trained in Napa Valley, which is about as cushy a place as you could be on this earth. And it seemed to work out okay for them. I don't think they were too soft. And I don't think that.
Wait, they were pretty good?
You think I think so. Yeah. I think they won a few Super Bowls.
All right. Yeah.
I just feel like people are looking for something and trying to correlate a reason behind it. But we'll see. We'll see how it works out. But even if this team wins this year, which I'm kind of encouraged by what I've seen so far, I don't think it's going to be because of where they trained. Put it that way.
Yeah, let's hear from Kenny Vaccaro, because his response to being home and practicing in the heat, to me, he wasn't prompted to say that because I asked the question. I didn't say, do you think this makes you guys tougher now that you're here rather than at the Greenbrier? He kind of brought this up on his own. So let's hear from Kenny Vaccaro.
Yeah, I love them. Anytime the offense catches the ball, they're cheering. It's kind of funny. I love it. I love hearing people scream random names. I love seeing the jerseys. I love being in New Orleans. I never wanted to leave. I'm glad we can come. We brought training camp back here. I don't care how hard it gets. It'll make us mentally tougher. I remember my rookie year, I damn near died in training camp. But I promise you, in that fourth quarter, Atlanta tied up. Y'all remember that first drive? Tipped the ball. Wasn't tired then. You know what I'm saying? And I think that all came from getting roasted in this 105 index, whatever it is, degree heat. It'll make us a tougher team.
Make them a tougher team. They didn't practice in 105-degree heat up in the Greenbrier, I'll tell you that. Some days it was a nice little mist, and we were wearing fleeces to practice here and there. It wasn't a scorcher there, Jeff. Come on. Kenny's on board. Why aren't you?
I love Kenny, but he's also the guy that would look for some reason to validate anything. If they were practicing at the North Pole, he'd find a reason to say it was a good idea. I mean, that's just Kenny Vaccaro. So we'll see. Look, I think it's good that the team's back here. The fans have come out in droves. It's been your column the other day was great about the block party atmosphere. All those things are good, and the team should be here. But I missed it yesterday. I missed West Virginia big time while we were out there in that Baton Death March.
I'm sure someone like Orlando Franklin, who's been here for about 2 days, a big, massive guard, just shows up and gets thrown into the sauna. He looked walking off the field like a beaten man.
Well, when we were walking past him, yes, Bobby Hebert and I, we heard Franklin telling the trainer, I've never cramped up like that in spots like that in my career.
Oh, my gosh. So, and he's a veteran, been around the league for 6 years.
Welcome to New Orleans. Welcome to Louisiana. This isn't Denver.
No, or San Diego. I think that's where he came from.
Both of
those places. Yeah. So you're not dealing with this sort of stuff. But yesterday's practice in particular, it's the one that if you came out here, you got scorched and you probably got sunburnt because there was no cloud cover. You were out there for 3 hours, and that's just from 8:50 to 11:50. And if you got out there even earlier because they had the Fan Fest stuff, you were out there even longer. So, A, kudos to you. But B, the players were out there. And I'm sure they were not accustomed to doing this, especially anyone who has never practiced here in those sort of conditions for that long. I mean, think about the roster. I mean, Kenny Vaccaro, he's probably one of the few players on the roster that's had a full training camp here. You could rattle off Drew Brees, Zach Strief, like Thomas Morstead. There's not many of them who's actually gone through a training camp here. And so I think it's culture shock for a lot of these guys.
I didn't think about that, but that's a really good point because they'd been at the Greenbrier. And you could tell who it's affecting. Look, these guys are incredibly highly conditioned athletes, but there's only so much you got to hydrate, but there's only so much you can withstand in that kind of environment. So I do think mental toughness is something that can be gained through this because we're standing on the sidelines dying. I can't imagine what those guys are going through, trying to focus and go through physical contact. And we saw the focus kind of break down yesterday, and that's why Sean Payton sent the team back through a series of reps because he didn't like the sloppiness that he had seen on the field.
Let's hear what Sean Payton had to say, why he extended the practice. It alludes to what Jeff just talked about.
Well, listen, I told him at one point, we're not just going to go through and run plays. We repeated the team drill towards the end. There were some things I didn't like. And I think the worst thing we can do is sit and watch and tolerate something that we feel like isn't acceptable, and it's really no different than parenting. It takes energy and you have to change behavior, and I just thought part of this practice was missing some of that intensity I'd like to see, and so we're going to get it, we'll find it, but it just took us going a little bit longer.
Cam Jordan, who's one of those players who has gone through training camp practice here in Metairie, here's his thoughts on the marathon practice on Sunday.
I mean, you learn who's got that dog in them. We got a good group of guys. At the end of the day, we're not here to be nice guys. We're on the field to want more. We're on the field to want to succeed. And the great thing about that is failure opens up your eyes quicker. I think we had a good day today. I don't think it was anything to brag about. I don't think there's anything that you say, hey, we're a Super Bowl winning team today, but we don't need to be today. 14 days from now, when we take preseason, or 13 days, whatever the day count is, I do know that we have to show improvement. We have to show that we're a team.
Coming from one of the vets who has been through some ups and been through plenty of downs the past 3 years as far as team goes. And you could tell, look, he's not mincing words. We got to get tough, and this is part of the ways we've got to do it.
I really like what I've heard from Cam Jordan throughout this offseason. He has really emerged as a strong leader for this team, and I think he's going to have a monster year. He looks incredible out there, so much better than any other pass rusher they have, and I know that's no revelation. He looks even better than he has before in his career, and I think maybe having a potential contract on the line could factor into that.
Maybe another one after the one he's got. So let's take a quick break right here on Dunc and Holder. Coming up next, we'll change gears a little bit, go up to Baton Rouge, talk to our man Chris Dave, covers LSU for NOLA.com and the Times-Picayune. They're starting practice today, they reported yesterday. Then the following segment, we'll head uptown to Tulane. Todd Graffinini, the voice of the Green Wave, will join us as Tulane just wrapped up their first practice as well. Sports 1280, NOLA.com, and the iHeartRadio app. We're Dunc and Holder.
Your forecast on Sports 1280, New Orleans.
I'm a damn mind reader, man.
I mean, my gosh.
Happy Monday from the Fox 8 Weather Center. I'm meteorologist Shelby Latino. Temperatures will climb into the low 90s this afternoon with mostly dry skies. Just a small chance for a stray shower out there, and we'll see a mix of sun and clouds. We'll see temperatures falling into the mid-70s overnight and then back to sunny skies and highs in the low 90s tomorrow afternoon. From the Fox 8 Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Shelby Latino. Have a great day.
It's Mattress Firm's coolest sleep sale ever. Come in and get the latest in cooling mattress technology. Get Hampton & Rhodes Pillow Top Queen Mattress for only $209.99 and get 0% APR for 6 years. Only at Mattress Firm.
Let me surprise you with an interesting fact. You ready? Of all the media options today, AM/FM radio reaches the most people each week. Yeah, you heard me right.
All right, we got Chris on the line.
All right.
93% of Americans.
2 minutes.
Every week. That's bigger than TV, newspapers, even Google and Facebook. If you're a marketer and you need to improve your plans, remember, radio.
In order to successfully run your own business, attention to detail.
Is it locking 2 or locking 4?
Track slip up or legal misunderstanding can really.
NFL reporter who Sean Payton likes to yell about.
That's right.
Over 1 million Americans have used LegalZoom to start their businesses, but LegalZoom services go well beyond business formation. They built a nationwide network of independent attorneys who can provide legal answers to the day-to-day questions you have about your business. Because, let's face it, things like trademarks, employment laws, and lease agreements can get pretty complicated. So don't waste your valuable time trying to wrap your head around all of the fine print. Use LegalZoom for that, so you can focus on growing your business instead. You'll get the legal help you need without being billed by the hour, since LegalZoom isn't a law firm. Go to LegalZoom.com today and be sure to enter code BRILLIANT in the referral box for special savings. Only at LegalZoom.com.
Greetings, Detective. Did you catch our bad guys?
My last big case was the Mercedes killer.
From the mind of Stephen King.
You failed!
This guy's really trying to get into your head, isn't he?
Having bad thoughts, Detective.
An all-new AT&T original series.
This is our guy.
We both got vengeance on the brain.
Nothing wrong with a little vengeance.
Mr. Mercedes premieres August 9th at 8, only on Audience, DirecTV Channel 239 and streaming.
Here we go.
Now.
Your home for Cakes Baseball. Sports 1280, New Orleans.
Duncan Holder back at you at the Pelicans Media Center here on Airline Drive. Of course, the Saints are currently practicing. Training camp practice number 5. But let's go up to Baton Rouge. A guy who used to sweat it out with us down here. Now he is sweating it out, maybe not at practice, but outside of the practice gates at LSU is LSU beat writer for NOLA.com and the Times-Picayune, Chris Dave, join us right here on the show. And he promised to bring a hammer on his first episode. Are you going to bring the hammer, or is it just going to be like one of those little toy hammers that your kid has?
I'll do my best. And I waited 2 whole weeks. This is week 3 for you guys, and finally you're having me on. So this is a pretty special moment for me.
This is Jeff's fault. He told me to scale back on you. I pitched hard.
Already thrown me under the bus, Chris, in week 3. But we wanted to give you time to get your legs back under you. We know that you were on a little vacation before the start of the season.
He deserved it. He was in Omaha for like a month.
I know. That's exactly what we were thinking. So, but I wanted to ask you right away about the decision by Ed Orgeron to close practice. What do you think's behind that? And did that surprise you that he's going to shut down practices to the media, considering he opened it last year during his interim period?
Yeah, that's exactly why it surprised me a bit, considering last year when he became the interim coach, he opened things up a bit, and media got to see things and see parts of practice during the regular season, by my understanding, the first time since before Les Miles or Nick Saban going pretty far back. And so they had things open in the spring again, which I guess is nothing unusual, but then for this to come out that they were not going to have practices open was a bit of a surprise. My suspicion is that I shouldn't say suspicion, he did address it last night, saying that he wants to have things closed for the first few weeks as they install some things on offense, and certainly with new offensive coordinator Matt Canada in place, there is quite a bit to install. They are going to open things up starting August 21st, though, and our understanding is that from that point forward, it'll be similar to what it was last season. Well, there'll be some openness even during the season, but these first few weeks, I guess he just really wants to close ranks and keep things as private as possible, even though much of what we see similar to Saints in regular season, you only really see them do individual workouts and kind of take a roll call, like you mentioned earlier, Larry. So there's not entirely too much to be gleaned from those open sessions.
Well, I guess, Chris, you mentioned Matt Canada installing the offense. Obviously, there's a lot of intrigue around Arden Key and his availability. How much do you think maybe that has something to do with it?
Yeah, I think there's a little bit with that. That was always a focal point. Even in the spring of this, even though we knew Arden Key wasn't going to be there in the spring, it was monitoring quite a bit of who's Ed Orgeron working with. Because he did a lot of one-on-one work with the defensive line during the spring, at least in the portions that we were in there for, and especially with the defensive ends doing work with Ray Thornton and Andre Anthony, who are two of the guys that are expected to kind of fill that Arden Key role if he is not ready to go at the start of the season. He's not expected to practice for the first 2 weeks of camp, and then after that, it's uncertain from Ed Orgeron's, in his words, of when he'll get back in. There is a chance he could play in that opener, so there might be a little bit of that, of just not wanting us in there monitoring every little bit of is Arden Key fully dressed, is he not? But those are all things fans want to know, and I think that's kind of the thing that gets lost in it all, is we're just trying to provide information for the fans. It's not us being intrusive any more than it is just giving information to those paying fans that fill that large stadium here in Baton Rouge.
Chris, you had your top position battles to watch during preseason camp. That post ran over the weekend on NOLA.com, and I tell you, your number 2 position battle to watch is the one that I consider to be number 1, and that's the wide receiver spot, mainly because I think there's a lot of intrigue in that. Once you get past DJ Chark, there's just a lot of names that haven't really made much of an impact. There's a lot of young potential in that group, and when we talked to Coach Orgeron last week, he mentioned Drake Davis is first and foremost as a guy that he thinks is going to step up and make an impact this season, of players that potentially fans don't know much about, but they've got a host of other really big, strapping young guys that are going to probably get a great opportunity in Matt Canada's new offense to make some plays this year. So is that an area you're going to be looking at during camp?
Yeah, for sure. And it's funny you mentioned Drake Davis, because Ed Orgeron mentioned him again last night and talked about him as somebody who needed to kind of mature and step up. So, last week I heard the interview that you guys did with him where he says he's somebody who might be in position to kind of be right there behind DJ Chark. Last night he made it sound like, he's got a little bit to go, and I think he's just trying to kind of push some buttons with some of those receivers, guys that he's had in there for at least a year, and that is a pretty big spot, certainly in this offense, where there's a lot of expectation, I think, from fans that this offense under Matt Canada is going to be this wide-open passing type of offense. Well, for one thing, they need players who can catch the ball, and right now, behind Chark, that's kind of a mystery. It's mostly inexperienced sophomores, a lot of freshmen, and trying to find guys that can fill those roles. And one thing Orgeron mentioned last night was he's going to need more than just a few receivers out there. They're going to be doing a lot of shifts, a lot of motions with this offense. So there's going to be a lot of guys cycling in and out after each play and whatnot. So it's a depth chart that needs to run deep, and right now there's not a whole lot of depth to it.
Chris Dabe covers LSU football and all things LSU for NOLA.com and the Times-Picayune. You could follow him on Twitter at CMDabe. Join us right here on Dunc and Holder, again, as we're live in the Pelicans Media Center on Airline Drive. Chris, you mentioned Ed Orgeron, of course, spoke with the media after the reporting day was over. What are some of the major takeaways? You mentioned about wide receiver. What are some of your other major takeaways from what he had to say? And because a lot of this stuff, it's almost like you're going to have to be leaning on what he has to say because you're not going to be able to see as much.
Right. One takeaway was he definitely wants to see what Miles Brennan can do, the incoming freshman quarterback, 4-star from Bay St. Louis, Missouri, and Mississippi. Sorry, and he's kind of the guy that everybody's been waiting to see. The coaches haven't seen him throw yet. He's he's been around his teammates during the summer, but much of what the coaches know about how he's looked in the summer is, word of mouth from the receivers and other guys that have been around him. So they want to see him, and they want to see Danny Etling going full speed. They haven't seen that yet since his back procedure that came right after the spring game. He played last year with some back pain, and all through the spring kind of gutted it out. So those two players, those two quarterbacks, are guys that they definitely want to get to see. Danny Etling through the spring held the number one quarterback spot, never did anything to really kind of lose being the starting quarterback, but then nobody really stepped up to kind of take that. It's an open competition, and that's where Miles Brennan comes in. They say they're going to give him every opportunity to earn that starting spot. He's come in with a bit more weight on his body. He's around 190 now, and so he definitely made it clear that he wants to see quite a bit from Miles Brennan before really making that final quarterback decision. And I expect Danny Etling to be the starter, but I think he's trying to do it out of fairness. When they recruited Miles Brennan, they just said they'd give him a shot, so that's what they're looking to do.
Chris, the school announced just a little while ago, you've already got a story up on NOLA.com about J.D. Moore is also going to wear number 18 this season. That's a really great tradition that LSU has with their football program. He's joining Christian Lacouture as far as going to have two players wear number 18 this year. What do you think is behind that decision? I think that's kind of intriguing.
I like the idea of having two. I don't see any problem with it. I think J.D. Moore actually got some social media backing from some of his teammates as a candidate for number 18. He's coming back from an arm injury, and there's a little video that went viral a little bit of him in the indoor practice facility with his helmet on and kind of just by himself going through some individual drills and whatnot. He had a cast on his arm, and so there's a little JD for number 18 Twitter talk. And of course, back in the spring, it came out that Christian Lacouture would have the number 18 initially, and both seem pretty deserving. Both have had injury issues. Of course, Lacouture missed all of last season with knee ligament injury, but now he's back, and he's a big part of that defensive line on the defensive end position. So it's the first time since this number 18 tradition began in 2003 that two players will wear it in one season. Of course, in college, you're allowed to have two guys with the same number as long as they're not on the field at the same time. So with one on offense, one on defense, there won't be any conflicts there.
Chris, Coach O the other night, when we talked to him, we asked him how many freshmen he thought would play early on, and he said about 7 is what he thought, most of them on defense. But the guy he can't stop talking about is Grant Delpit, the safety, who has an opportunity here because, let's face it, at safety they're going to be missing Jamal Adams, of course, a high draft pick. What do you know about Grant Delpit, and what are fans going to learn about him once they get to see him on the field?
Well, they got to see a little bit of him during the spring game. If I recall correctly, he did have an interception and some breakups in the spring game. Ed Orgeron, right after that game, he kind of unprompted made the comparison to Jamal Adams, and I don't know if that quite meant that you'd see a Jamal Adams type player out there right away this year, but certainly down the line over the next 2-3 years, that he would be presumably be playing here. He's an athletic, strong safety, and I think that the position battle right now will be between him and probably John Battle, who played free safety last year, came in halfway through the season last year as a free safety, injury replacement, played the rest of the year, and the thought was that he would go to strong safety. Well, Grant Delpit had such a strong spring that now I think he might be in position to have that starting role and maybe move John Battle back to free safety. So there's a number of guys that I think they know they're going to have on the field in that defensive backfield. It's just a matter of where. Dante Jackson would be another one, for example, who's definitely a starting cornerback, but in nickel situations he might move into play nickel back and have somebody else out there in his place. So there's a whole lot of depth in that defensive backfield right now.
Chris Dave, follow him on Twitter at CMDave, and follow all of his coverage of all things LSU at NOLA.com and at Times-Picayune. Chris, appreciate the time, buddy. We'll catch up soon.
Thanks, Chris.
Hey, thanks. Thank you.
You got it. Coming up next here on Dunc and Holder, Todd Grappanini, the voice of the Tulane Green Wave. We will catch up with him on what to expect from Tulane football. Of course, you're listening to the home of the Tulane Green Wave football team on Sports 1280. Of course, we're broadcasting on NOLA.com and the iHeart Radio app. We're Dunc and Holder. Yeah.
What do I think about LSU this year?
Jordy Holtzberg.
I don't doubt the talent.
2 till 4.
The question is, how quickly can you get this talent to become college football players and successful college football players?
Sports 1280.
Something massive has happened to the iHeartRadio app. We listen to your ideas and suggestions. Everything you had to tell us about how we could improve your listening experience. And the result is the newly designed iHeartRadio app. It's not an update, but a complete upgrade with one goal in mind: getting you closer to the music you love.
This is Dan from Imagine Dragons, and this is iHeartRadio.
Download and open the new iHeartRadio app today.
Greetings, Detective. Did you catch our bad guys?
My last big case was the Mercedes killer.
From the mind of Stephen King.
You failed.
This guy's really trying to get into your head, isn't he?
Having bad thoughts, Detective.
An all-new AT&T original series.
This is our guy. We've both got vengeance on the brain.
Nothing wrong with a little vengeance.
Mr. Mercedes premieres August 9th at 8, only on Audience, DirecTV Channel 239, and streaming on DirecTV Now.
Driver to driver, I'm gonna let you in on a little secret. Driving with Uber is the ultimate side hustle. It totally fits around your schedule, so you can earn whenever you have time. Maybe that's before breakfast on Sundays. Maybe that's after work on Mondays. It's totally up to you. That's the best part. Here's the other equally best part. With Uber's Instant Pay, you can get paid whenever you want. So get your side hustle on. Visit uber.com/drive now. That's uber.com/.
All right, we got the graph. Got about a minute, 10 seconds.
Cool.
With Flow.
Your aura brims with confidence. The Name Your Price tool has given you policy options based on your budget. A source of great power rises from within, like a Tyrannosaurus Rex that can shoot dragons out of its eyes, riding on a tank.
Get insurance based on your budget with the Name Your Price tool from Progressive. Visit Progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Price and coverage match limited by state law.
Right now, there's a girl in India who has dreams bigger than her village. Right now, there's an elder in Guatemala who dreams of a life of greater dignity and less loneliness. You can help change the future of one person in a single moment. Begin the change at unbound.org.
A Wendy's Frosty is something special. And for a limited time, a Frosty is just 50 cents. An American classic for a classic price. It's not quite a milkshake, not quite an ice cream cone. It's definitely chocolate or vanilla. That choice is on you. Use a spoon or a French fry. Anything goes. A Frosty makes summer special. Yep, there's nothing quite like a
10 seconds.
Like this deal. A Frosty for 50 cents. Get yours before this deal melts away.
Small Frosty only at participating Wendy's for a limited time. Offer not valid in Alaska and Hawaii.
This is Dunc and Holder on Sports 1280, New Orleans.
Welcome back. Dunc and Holder here at the Pelicans Media Center here on Airline Drive, broadcasting live. We're heading uptown. You know, his second job is being the voice of the Tulane Green Wave. His 1A job is being husband and parent, but his number one job is being a godfather to my youngest son, Chase. It's Todd Grappanini joining us right here on the show, making his debut after spending 50 years in Ireland. What's up, dude?
Larry, Jeff, congratulations, gentlemen. It's been a pleasure to listen to you guys the last couple of weeks. I actually listened to you from Ireland when it was drive time there, so it was a little different perspective, but I'm glad the show's going great and really happy for you guys at the station. And, of course, Tulane is on the station as well, so hopefully it will be the start of a long, long relationship.
Absolutely. The beauty of the iHeartRadio app for you to listen to us in London. Ireland. Yeah. Sorry, wrong spot.
Graf, what was Ireland like? It's always been on my bucket list to visit Ireland.
Jeff, you need to go as soon as possible. It's a fantastic place, and I'm really lucky because my wife is Irish, and all of her uncles and aunts and cousins are over there. So when we go, we don't have to stay in a hotel. We're staying with family, so it makes things a lot easier. And again, full disclosure, my son's on my lap right now. So
Daddy daycare, yes.
Yes. But anyway, it's just a wonderful place. We got really lucky with the weather. It can be a crapshoot in the summertime, but for the most part, it was pretty good. And I think you guys could handle 68 to 72 every day as a high, and 55 at night. Where you could just wear a sweater or a jacket, and it's awesome. I got to play golf. I got to see U2 in Croke Park. So wow. I would say it was a very productive, relaxing, and enjoyable 3 weeks. And batteries are charged, and I'm ready to go.
Todd, you just finished watching practice number 1 uptown with the Tulane Green Wave. Just what is your overall perspective of this team? We had Coach Willie Fritz on first week of the show, and he seems to think that, look, it's going to be a tough conference. Look, they're picked to finish last in the division, but the division is one of the toughest maybe in college football, honestly.
No, look, the American it is a grind, week in and week out. It doesn't matter who you're going to play. I thought we really held our own last year. We didn't make enough plays down the stretch in games where we had leads in the fourth quarter and had chances to win and just really didn't finish. So in that aspect, I think the coaching staff and the players saw that they could compete week in and week out, but obviously you got to finish games and win ball games because that's the only thing anybody cares about. But I can tell you right now, guys, just having watched this one practice, and look, they're in helmets, no pads. That's not they're not going to get into that till next week. But athletically, physically, it's a lot different than from what I saw day one last year. I think that the strength and conditioning program has kicked in where last year they really didn't have a lot of time to do it as far as get into the program that Kyle Spear wanted to have the football players get into just because they were late getting into the game, so to speak. But just the returning players look bigger and stronger. And what impressed me, and again, this is literally the first time seeing the freshmen that they brought in because obviously they can't play in the spring. I'm looking down at my roster going, well, who's this kid? Who is this kid? Freshman. And they look the part. So I just thought today, day one, was night and day, pardon the pun, as from day one last year, in a positive sense.
Graf, are we going to finally get to see, how much do you think Coach Fritz was able to install last year? How much of his offense was limited by what he had personnel-wise? And do you think now with, say, the quarterback position battle, I'm assuming Jonathan Banks is going to start, but now with that type of athlete at quarterback, the dual threat that fits his system, how much more do you think we're going to see of this Fritz offense this season?
Well, I think we saw a lot of it last year. I just don't think that you had the guys that could execute it to its fullest potential. And what really hurt us last year, we were able to run the ball just fine. I mean, we broke school records for rushing, but it got to the point, fellas, where the opposing defenses knew that we really weren't able to throw the ball as successfully as we needed to, and they started stacking the box, and then it just became tough to run, and that's when it really started to bog down in the offensive sense. I mean, again, you go back to a year ago, you had Glenn Couillette, who had never run an option attack, and you had a kid like Jonathan Brantley, who was coming from Houston, who really wasn't much of a passer, and you throw on the top of that, his arm was so tired from throwing pre-fall that he could throw the ball barely 10 yards, well, you got to have a guy that can do both. And from just watching Jonathan Banks in the spring and watching him today, it looks like he's got a lot more grasp of the offense that he did in the spring, and he should. I mean, he's had a lot more time to work on it in the summer, but this is a guy who can break it to the outside, and he can throw the ball with authority, and that's what Willie Fritz needs. If we saw maybe 1 or 2 games where the offense really clicked, and when we saw it last year, it was very tough to stop. So you just got to have the right guys. You know, I'm giving you the obvious, but if you don't have a quarterback, it's pretty hard to win.
Todd, we'll catch up back with you in maybe a week or two and get an update from the Green Wave. Thanks, buddy.
Fantastic, guys. See you.
All right, Dunc and Holder, hour number 1 is up. Hour number 2 is on the way. Sports 1280, iHeartRadio app, and NOLA.com.
Hey, baby, are you watching? I'm saddled in for your sideshow.
In order to successfully run your own business, attention to detail is so critical. One contract slip-up or legal misunderstanding can really set you back. Fortunately, there's LegalZoom. You may already know that over 1 million Americans have used LegalZoom to start their businesses, but LegalZoom services go well beyond business formation. They built a nationwide network of independent attorneys who can provide legal answers to the day-to-day questions you have about your business. Because, let's face it, things like trademarks, employment laws, and lease agreements can get pretty complicated. So don't waste your valuable time trying to wrap your head around all of the fine print. Use LegalZoom for that, so you can focus on growing your business instead. You'll get the legal help you need without being billed by the hour, since LegalZoom isn't a law firm. Go to LegalZoom.com today and be sure to enter code BRILLIANT in the referral box for special savings. Only at LegalZoom.com.
WODT WNOE FM HD2 New Orleans. Listen on the free iHeartRadio app. Search Sports 1280. Fox Sports trending now.
Well, all eyes were on Baltimore as the Ravens were reportedly considering bringing in a veteran backup for injured quarterback Joe Flacco, possibly Robert Griffin III or Colin Kaepernick. They did make a move. They waived David Olson, who they just signed a few days ago, and they've now reportedly signed Josh Woodrum, who played for Liberty. And while the Major League Baseball trade deadline is coming up today at 4 Eastern, no move yet for Rangers ace Yu Darvish, but the Cubs have reportedly acquired Tigers closer Justin Wilson and catcher Alex Avila in exchange for 2 minor league infielders. The Colorado Rockies acquired catcher Jonathan Lucroy from the Rangers for a player to be named later. And in NBA news, Clippers forward Danilo Gallinari suffered a right thumb injury punching an opponent in a European exhibition game. He is expected to be ready in time for training camp. I'm Deb Carson.
We are Baltimore. The IRS doesn't mess around. If they want your money, they'll take it. They can take your paycheck and bank accounts too, even threaten your home or business. And it's about to get worse. The IRS just hired an army of new tax enforcers. So, if you owe back taxes, the smartest thing you can do is call Optima Tax Relief.
All right, 4 minutes, guys.
Access to a special IRS tax assistance program called the Fresh Start Initiative. And their clients that qualify are saving thousands, even tens of thousands. One call starts the process to stop the demand letters, stop aggressive collection actions, and stop that army of new enforcers from targeting you. But don't delay. It's important to act now while you still have options. Optima is A-rated with the Better Business Bureau. Optima has already resolved over $500 million of tax debt for their clients. Get your life back. Call now for your free consultation.
Call 800-798-2477. That's 800-798-2477. 800-798-2477.
Optima Tax Relief.
Some restrictions apply. For complete details, please visit OptimaTaxRelief.com.
Driver to driver, I'm going to let you in on a little secret. Driving with Uber is the ultimate side hustle. It totally fits around your schedule, so you can earn whenever you have time. Maybe that's before breakfast on Sundays. Maybe that's after work on Mondays. It's totally up to you. That's the best part. Here's the other equally best part. With Uber's Instant Pay, you can get paid whenever you want. So get your side hustle on. Visit uber.com/drive now. That's uber.com/drive now.
Napa know-how. There are lots of amazing cars on the road, but perhaps none more amazing than the paid-off car. It may not be pretty, but the price is right. Heck, if you keep that thing running, it'll actually start paying you. Because with Napa Rewards, for every $100 you spend, you'll get $5 off. So keep your car running longer, stronger with Napa Rewards, and watch the savings start rolling in. That's Napa know-how.
Napa know-how.
Honda's having a summer party called the Honda Summerbration Sales Event, where there are great deals on the 2017 Accord. With an available 278 horsepower V6 engine with sport mode, it's perfect for long summer drives. Plus, it has adaptive cruise control, a system that helps you maintain a safe following distance even if the driver in front of you changes speed. But you better hurry to your local Honda dealer because, like summer, the Honda Summerbration Sales Event will not last long. Don't wait. Check out the Honda Summerbration Sales Event going on now.
I ordered some Andro 400. I'm losing weight, too, around the belly really quickly. Some of the pants that didn't fit me, now they're falling off my hips. There's been a noticeable increase in energy. Then this stuff works. It does work.
That's what Bill said after taking Andro 400 for a month. Now listen to what Richard says about Andro 400.
I did a lot of research on it before I ordered it because I've tried other products in the past and they haven't worked. But I could not believe the difference literally within a month. Since I started taking it, I have lost 37 pounds. It was the belly fat. I could get weight off, but I could never get the tummy off. Now the tummy's coming off, and I have more energy than I've had in 20 years.
Guys, if you too want to lose belly fat, gain energy, and feel 20 years younger like Richard, try Andro 400, the safe, natural, and affordable way to boost your testosterone. Go to andro400.com or call 888-400-0435. That's 888-400-0435.
30 seconds.
Bad guys.
My last big case was the Mercedes killer.
From the mind of Stephen King.
You failed.
This guy's really trying to get into your head, isn't he?
Having bad thoughts, detective.
An all-new AT&T original series.
This is our guy. We both got vengeance on the brain.
Nothing wrong with a little vengeance.
Mr. Mercedes premieres August 9th at 8, only on Audience, DirecTV Channel 239, and streaming on DirecTV Now.
Dunc and Holder, hour number 2 of our Monday show. Had our colleague up in Baton Rouge who covers LSU, Chris Dabe, on, and we had our buddy, the voice of the Tulane Green Wave, Todd Graffinini. Caught up with both of them to talk about LSU opening camp, Tulane opening camp. Of course, we will be chatting about that a good bit throughout the off-season and in-season, as we're going to try to touch on all things New Orleans sports here on Dunc and Holder. But yep, we're live here at the Pelicans Media Center as Saints practice is still going on here on Airline Drive. And you look at, and Jeff was even asking me during the break, he's like, have you been keeping up with what's going on in practice? Well, I told him, according to our colleagues and the mass amount of updates they're giving, I was like, Jeff, I can't even catch up. I mean, that's how thorough of a job we've been doing over at NOLA.com and the Times-Picayune, and we're going to continue doing that. And look, this show is part of it. Do not forget, you can watch the show on YouTube Live, either on our YouTube Live channel for NOLA.com or on the site at NOLA.com. And Jeff makes an effort, and a good effort, of chiming in with those chatting in, and we've seen some increase in our viewership. 25 might look low, but 10 was low last week. So people
are 100% up.
Yeah, people are jumping in on that. We appreciate everyone jumping in. But Jeff, We know practice is going on, and we're going to talk a lot of Saints in this next hour. We're going to be hearing from Dennis Allen. We'll be hearing from Cam Jordan, Kenny Vaccaro, Adrian Peterson, and Sean Payton on a number of subjects. And if you want to get involved, open phone lines the rest of the show. Feel free to get involved, 504-260-1280, or you could go to our YouTube live stream and jump in, get a comment, and we will try our best to discuss it. But, Jeff, look, they're out there. It seems like it's another physical practice. It seems like another practice where Jack Allen, the backup center, can't snap the ball to anyone. And it's such a crazy little storyline, but it's one of the reasons we played Sean Payton's soundbite earlier. The flow of practice is affected. I mean, you can't. They already have down Max Unger. Josh Laribius has yesterday replaced Jack Allen twice, and it ruins the flow of practice. I mean, this sounds like nothing, but it slows down work. It's crazy.
Yeah, I was talking to Bobby Hebert about it during practice yesterday, and he talked at length about how important having a accurate shotgun snap is to the quarterback and his ability to go through his progressions, to start his reads. He said it ruins the entire timing of the offensive play if the quarterback is having to reach up over his head, focus on catching the ball, and then redirect his focus downfield. He said those split seconds are invaluable to a quarterback. And knowing Sean Payton, he is not going to put up with this for too long. If this is like a case of the yips, I don't remember this being a case a year ago with Jack Allen.
I wouldn't say a year ago, but I could tell you during OTAs and mini camps, look, it's a position where we're looking at, because Max Unger's not there, so we're kind of zeroing in on it. And Josh Laribius, who's a veteran guy, he's been with the ones the entire time. And Jack Allen was someone who you thought, he's been around all year, practice squad, and even snuck on. I think he snuck on to the 53-man roster by the end of the year last year. But when snaps are flying all over the place, it was so much so that I made a mention of it in observations during mini camps and OTAs, and it's gotten worse. And the fact that I'm having to sit here and talk about it because that's a major problem in practice, Sean Payton is going to waste no time. I bet you someone's going to be in here working out, and they could sign a guy, and Jack Allen could be the end of the line for him.
Yeah, I mean, obviously the plan is to have Max Unger for the opener against the Vikings, and Jack Allen won't really factor in. Josh Laribius will be the backup, and they also have Senio Calamete at some point. You assume he's going to be healthy and can also snap. But right now, because Unger is out, we're seeing a lot more of Jack Allen than we're used to, and he's not responding. And it's totally different when you're out there in full pads snapping than you are when you're not in full pads. And this is where his real problems have cropped up the last couple of days as they've been in full pads. For some reason, he has not adjusted well, and I think it's becoming a mental thing with him because it's so prevalent.
Allen was having problems in helmet, shirt, and shorts, so I think it's mental at this. You could call it the yips. Certainly seems like that. So the fact that I'm talking about this top of the 11 o'clock hour, it's become absurd.
What is not an issue, though, is the deep snap so far. Will Lutz has been very good on field goals. That seems to be an area where they are vastly improved. We didn't know what they were going to get at kicker a year ago, and Will Lutz has been dead on perfect so far throughout camp.
Yeah, he was 8 of 8 yesterday, 7 of 7 today. And you look at it, and it's something that Sean Payton always has kicker competition here. Lutz is alone, and he is a different – I'm still going to call him a kid because he's young. He kind of looks like a kid still. But he is a different guy. I wrote a column on him in OTAs and mini camps, and just the confidence he has, and you could just see it. He's walking around, with his chest out. I don't want to say like he's braggadocious because he's far from that. But what you do is you look at it, and his trajectory is big leg, and it's something to where they don't have that problem anymore. And you always figured it was a problem, and he knew it was a problem when he came here. I referred to it as a Bermuda Triangle. He admitted he's read it. He knew exactly what I was talking about, and he's strived to stop that, and it seems like he's well on his way to do that.
And people say, oh, the kicker, who cares about the kicker? Well, look, this team isn't good enough to just blow teams out. We saw that a year ago. They lost 7 games by a touchdown or less. There are going to be a lot more of those close games this year, and if you've got a kicker that's dialed in the way Will Lutz is right now, it could make your season. And they have not had a guy that you can just count on probably since Hartley was in his groove right after around the Super Bowl time. Otherwise, it's been kind of a revolving door, and you don't really know what you're going to get. So this is a positive sign of camp so far, the way he's kicking. There's been a number of positive signs, and there's also some concerns that we can get into in a little bit, talking about, say, the depth of the offensive line, which is understandable. I think that is an area of concern, and I've yet to see the pass rush really crank up the way you'd like to see it. They're sending a lot of blitzes and a lot of pressures at the offensive line, so that's typical of Dennis Allen, and I think he realizes they don't have the dogs to just line up and whip people one-on-one in this pass rush. So they're going to manufacture pressure with his scheme, and that's probably the way to go with this defense because they don't have a Von Miller out there, although I would say Cam Jordan is a difference maker, but everybody knows that when they play the Saints, and he's going to see a consistent roster of double teams at him all season long, and the Saints are going to have to overwhelm offensive protections with their blitz packages because I really don't think they have the personnel to just line up and get after the quarterback right now.
No, they don't. They have one person, and it's Cam Jordan. He can't do it every play, and it's just the nature of it. Let's hit the phone lines, 504-260-1280 to get involved again. Open phone lines if you got any Saints questions, any comments on what you've seen in practice so far, any issues, any concerns, give us a buzz. Let's head up to probably our most loyal listener on planet Earth outside of our bosses, is Cordell in Minnesota on the iHeartRadio app. I think he's either really bored up in Minnesota or just really loves the show. Maybe I'll take it even if it's the first part.
So I can listen to the show all day, guys.
I love it. That's why you're always on the horn. Man. That's perfect. There you go. What you got, buddy?
Right, man. See, I'm driving around listening to you guys and definitely enjoying the show. Listen, I got a couple of questions. Like you kind of answered one just now about how the defensive ends were looking. We're still not getting much of a pass rush with what's his name, Okafor, I believe his name was.
Yes.
Correct.
Yes.
Yeah. So we're not getting much of a rush with him. The other question I was wondering about Damian Swan. I haven't heard much about him, so I was wondering if Arthur Marlette has more of the inside track to get that fourth DB spot. And I was also wanting to know about Ramczyk. He looks like the real deal, man. I know we were all crying about the Saints picking an offensive player in that draft, but this guy might turn out to be the real deal.
Yeah, hey, Cordell, appreciate the phone call. And let's start with Alex Okafor. And it goes, actually, to your question about Ryan Ramczyk. Okafor has been going heads up in one-on-one passing drills with Ramczyk. And I've been given the edge to Ramczyk. I think that's something that where he's thrived, and Ramczyk has looked the part also in team drills with the first-team offense. I think there's no question right now. You go into the season, and I don't see it changing because I don't see him regressing. I think it's Ramczyk's job, and I don't think it's even close right now.
Yeah, I don't even think it's a competition. I think Barnes was strictly an insurance policy, a veteran backup plan, and then the third plan would have been maybe moving Andres Pete out there. But Ramczyk is the guy they're going to ride with, and he's a very sharp student of the game. The guy's picked up things mentally. The question with him that Zach Streif mentioned the other day is just, can he learn the technique that it's going to take to play left tackle in the NFL? What we're seeing from him right now, physically, he can slide. He's got good feet, and he's picking up things mentally. That's what you want to see. But once they start going against the live bullets, teams are going to be throwing all kinds of stuff at him, all kinds of looks and stunts and drills, and it's going to be a baptism by fire. So even if he looks good in the preseason and looks good right now, there's still going to be some growing pains. I mean, I don't care who you are. Left tackle in the NFL against a team like Minnesota has some really good pass rushers. He's not Terron Armstead, but he does give them hope, I think. And thank goodness they made the trade for Brandon Cooks right now, because if they wouldn't have drafted Ramczyk, I don't know where they'd be.
They'd be in trouble.
Big time.
They'd be in big trouble. And I'm actually going to write a column. It'll be on NOLA.com tomorrow, how much we are talking about these rookies. Look, Ramczyk is probably getting more pub than we ever imagined from draft night, because he should start come week 1. You never would have anticipated that. Alvin Kamara's been getting a ton of pub from Sean Payton, from Adrian Peterson, from Mark Ingram, even getting some comparisons as far as his mental makeup from Sean Payton, comparing him to, of course, New Orleans native and Hall of Fame running back Marshall Faulk. And, Jeff, I know you kind of had a chance to kind of pick his brain just for a quick minute. But, yeah, the fact that you're getting that is a positive. You look at Marshawn Lattimore. At worst, he's a third cornerback, so that means he's going to play a lot. And Anzalone, I'm just forgetting about him. He's got a chance to play some significant snaps right away. I can't say especially that 15 class and even the 16 class you would have anticipated right away, but you didn't have Rankins. Von Bell came into the lineup later. It seems like this class, again, 5 days in, put a disclaimer on that. But they're certainly seeing more action, more significant action with the real deal players than the past few years.
Maybe at any time we've seen, since the early days of the Peyton era. I don't know if that's good or bad. Some of that obviously is because of happenstance and the injuries. But I tell you, if Stephon Anthony doesn't step it up at this camp, and he's going to get every opportunity at weak side linebacker, they're going to go with Alex Anzalone, I think. I think they like what they see from him. They like his instincts. They like how smart he is. He can run. I think Anthony's going to get pressured for that job. And Lattimore, I think, is struggling a little bit with the zone concepts. He played primarily man-to-man coverage at Ohio State. So his head swims a little bit when they go to zone, and they can't just play man-to-man. If they do that, then every time Lattimore's in the game, they just play man-to-man. The opposing offense is going to know that. You've got to be more multiple in your looks and your coverages, and that's the way Dennis Allen's always played it. They mix it up. So he's struggling a little bit with the zone concepts, but that's to be expected. I mean, we're early in camp. He's got plenty of time to get his feet under him and clear his head. They're throwing a lot at these rookies. I think this is now the 4th or 5th installation for them. So, again, they're throwing a lot of volume, and they haven't even played a preseason game yet. So don't rush to judgment on players. Sometimes the light bulb clicks, and, it happens in week 3 of preseason, and they start looking like the talent and playing with the speed and not thinking as much. Because right now you can see them all kind of hesitant, especially a guy like Marcus Williams who looks so good coming into camp, and he's really hasn't done much so far.
Yeah, he's kind of faded a little bit. I'm not saying he's going to not make the team, but it's not as much as like early on when he was playing a lot early.
Right.
So, yeah. Why don't we take a quick break right here on Dunc and Holder? And Jeff basically threw out a bunch of names that I was ready to discuss in the next segment. We'll hear from Dennis Allen on Marshawn Lattimore, on Stephon Anthony. I didn't even really write a Post-it note say, hey, Jeff, talk about these people and let's promote them. Jeff just saw me, and he was ready to go.
Week 3 of Dunc and Holder, we're already starting to telepathically
in sync
respond.
Exactly. Not the boy band In Sync. But when we come back, we'll do that. And your phone calls. Again, open lines the rest of the show. Get your questions in 504-260-1280. And we'll get you involved. Sports 1280, NOLA.com, and the iHeartRadio app. We're live from the Pelicans Media Center on Airline Drive. We're Dunc and Holder.
New Orleanians are passionate about local sports.
Doing the butt, ow.
The neutral ground.
Maybe more so than any market in America.
4 till 6.
I think it is a super tight connection.
Sports 1280.
New Orleans.
Our 2017 iHeartRadio Music Festival, hosted by Ryan Seacrest. Come on! September 22nd and 23rd at the T-Mobile Arena in Las Vegas. Buy your tickets now before they're gone. Ticket info at iHeartRadio.com/tickets.
Brought to you by Macy's. Macy's presents your opening act at the iHeartRadio Music Festival, Rising Star winner James Maslow. For new music and exclusive content from James Maslow and other hot artists, check out iHeartRadio.com/mstyleradio.
Offer not valid in all states or where prohibited by law. Loans are subject to lender approval. See website for details. Need some extra cash today? Do you have bad credit or maxed out credit cards? If so, turn your radio up. 67cash.com is one of the nation's largest personal loan networks with over 50 different lenders. Now you can get a personal loan for up to $5,000 with any type of credit discreetly from your computer or smartphone and with no paperwork to send in. That's right, no paperwork whatsoever. Your cash will hit your bank account as soon as tomorrow, as our lenders have millions of dollars to lend, regardless of your credit history. Just have a checking account and a regular source of income. Go to 67cash.com and you can get the loan you need now, regardless of your credit. Go to 67cash.com from your smartphone or computer to get the cash you need. Visit 67cash.com. Type www.67cash.com directly into the address bar. That's 67cash.com.
All right, 1 minute.
Cash.com.
Rich Eisen here. It's baseball season. Every fan knows this is a sport that relies a lot on analytics. Every team needs the greatest and latest data to make smart choices. Buying a car is no different. You got to have the right data so you can make sure you're getting a fair price, but that's not always easy. There are so many sites with all kinds of pricing information, but TrueCar cuts through all that clutter. You see what
all right.
You paid for the same car you want. They have pricing info, all right. Thousands of recent transactions, so you know you're getting a good deal without having to do them.
All right.
And Allen on Anthony.
All right.
Actual inventory. I'm talking about cars that exist that are on the lot with prices for the exact VIN number. TrueCar users save over $3,000 off MSRP on average. And because they're able to connect with a TrueCar certified dealer ahead of time, they know what they should be paying before they arrive on the lot. When you're ready for a more confident car buying experience, check out TrueCar.
Some features not available in all states.
This is Dunc and Holder on Sports 1280, New Orleans.
Jeff, have you ever seen this video?
I'm sure I have, but I don't recall.
Paula Abdul danced around with a cartoon cat.
Yes,
and I think won like an MTV Music Award for like best video because she had a cartoon cat.
Do they still do those awards? Do they even have music videos anymore?
I don't know where they even pop up. They're not certainly on MTV. Are they like on MTV 6 or 7? Don't YouTube? They have like 10 stations?
YouTube must air.
I don't know. I think they got some other ones. But look, all I care about, and I'm a total dork, I love MTV's Real World Road Rules challenges. I feel like that's the only reason why you would ever go on a Real World or Road Rules, is to be able to do the challenge for the rest of your life and try to win money.
You are a dork. That confirms it.
You know who is actually a big Saints dork who follows us on Twitter all the time is Theo Von, the comedian. And he made his kind of TV startup on Road Rules, and he did all those challenges.
I was wondering who that guy was. I know he follows us.
I was wondering who that guy was.
Now I know.
We actually went to LSU at the same time together. He wrote for the Reveille, the LSU paper, while I was there. Yeah.
Okay, that's good to know. A little trivia.
Exactly.
Another great product of the Reveille. We have plenty of them on our staff.
Not me. No.
We have a lot of Reveille-ites.
Exactly.
Is what they're called?
Revillians?
Revillians, yes.
Something like that. Anyway, back at the Pelicans Media Center here on Airline Drive, Dunc and Holder with you. And Jeff unknowingly teased what I wanted to get to in the next in this segment. We want to hear from Dennis Allen, and we're going to hear from Kenny Vaccaro. And, of course, it's defensive related. Obviously, Kenny Vaccaro is your safety, and Dennis Allen is your defensive coordinator. But Jeff brought up specifically, we were talking about the rookie class and Alex Anzalone and Marcus Lattimore. And before we get to that, though, let's go to Twitter. Josh Katzenstein, our colleague, we were kind of just saying, oh, Marcus Williams kind of fell back by the wayside. Well, guess what? He had his first interception in camp. Chase Daniel threw the ball behind Brandon Coleman and was picked off. And another one, Trey Hendrickson had his one-on-one battle, looked like with Andres Pete, and put on some good moves on him to get into the backfield, and then Andres Pete blocked him for a couple times. So, look, hey, Hendrickson has been getting some looks behind Cam Jordan.
Yes.
And actually today, on the opposite edge, according to our colleagues out at practice, it seems like Haley Kikaha is getting those looks instead of Alex Okafor today. So something to watch in the next few, obviously, days, weeks, and months.
Rotating guys in, giving everybody a look with the first-team unit. And, the dilemma we have at these camps is, for every Marcus Williams, hey, he made a pick, it could also be a bad pass, so it could be a bad play more so than a good play. You just don't know. I remember a couple of years ago when we were raving over the tight ends making all these catches, and then once the season started, we realized it was a hole in the Saints' defense that was being exploited by everybody they played. So you can look at it glass half full, glass half empty. Perspective can change whichever way you want to look at it.
Absolutely. But let's go to Dennis Allen. And, Jeff, you were talking about and describing Alex Anzalone, and what they like about him is that he can recognize run pass, even though Sean Payton said he did a quote-unquote bonehead plays every now and again, but they like his intelligence and wherewithal within the defense. And that's been a big knock on Stephon Anthony. And just read between the lines with what Dennis Allen had to say on Stephon Anthony this weekend.
Well, I think when you put him out there at the will, you take a little bit off his plate as far as the communication process. I thought he had a really good spring, and in our league, you never know what's going to happen, and all of a sudden, you have an injury or somebody's released, and now all of a sudden you got to adjust your thought process, and so we're putting him over at the will. We're going to work him there, give him an opportunity to win a job, and I think I think he's done some good things to start camp.
So first off, says move him to weak side linebacker to take a little bit of the communication part off of his plate. A la he doesn't know what's going on half the time. And that was the big thing. And no one hit it last year. Coaches talked about it. Sean Payton talked about it, that was a big problem with him. Then you look at chance to win a job and basically saying injuries or someone getting cut, Dannell Ellerbe. That's why there's an opening there. And so it's a battle between Stephon Anthony and Alex Anzalone. And it seems like there are differing factors, differing strengths right now, and differing weaknesses with those two players.
Well, this is Stephon Anthony's chance. I mean, this is a huge opportunity for him with Dannell Ellerbe now not being on the team. This is his job to lose. They want him to win it. You can tell they want him to win it. They're going to give him every opportunity to win it. But he's got to step up, man. I mean, this is it for him. They're not going to come back next year and run him through the car wash again. He's either going to make it this year or he's going to probably be in jeopardy of losing a roster spot. I think he would still make the team this year. I'd be surprised if he didn't make it. He's got too much. They've got too much invested in him.
And I think losing Ellerbe, that can open a spot.
Pretty much assures him to, I think, make the team. But going down the line, they're not going to keep around a backup that was a former first-round pick. They're going to move on. You see that happen a lot in the NFL. You have your window of opportunity to make your mark, and then people move on.
And the first-round tag buys you some time, but time might be up. Let's go to the phone lines, 504-260-1280. This man used to call me long ago when I was on the radio. He promised to call me, put it on Facebook over the weekend. Jeff and Kenna. Jeff, thanks for calling Dunc and Holder. What's up, my man?
Hey, Larry of the Hold Air. How's the hair holding up?
It's currently under a hat because it's too long and too frat-tastic, and it needs a chop, dude. It needs a bad chop.
Oh, man, I'm disappointed, man. I'm disappointed. Well, hey, guys, I'm welcome to the airwaves. I know, Larry, I told you this online via social media. It's been long overdue to have some knowledgeable opinionated, educated sports guys on the radio. I'm sorry. I'm just going to throw that out there. I mean, so you guys are doing a great job. I'm glad I'm getting to hear it every once in a while when I'm in the car. I'll throw this out there. I only got a couple of minutes. You know, it's funny. I can't take full credit for this point, but statistically last year, the Saints defense overall, yes, ended up very, very poor, like 27th, I think. But if you looked at just the second half of the season, Jeff, I know you wrote some stuff on this. They were actually in the top 15, I believe, and they really were improving. And I think that the level of talent that we've brought in and the sort of the purging we're doing with some other guys like LRB, I think we're going to see a big difference in the defense. But I think this is what's being overlooked. More games last year, though, I think at crucial times were lost because of special teams play. And I don't hear a lot about, other than Lutz having a great camp, about what's going on with the special teams this year. You guys have any insight on that? I haven't seen even much on that on Twitter or any social media.
Hey, Jeff, got to let you run, but hey, we appreciate it, and we will get to the topic. And thanks for chiming in and the kudos. Yeah, we've been talking a lot about Will Lutz. That's certainly something that is a plus. But Thomas Morstead is Thomas Morstead. Now the return game, I think that's in question. I'm curious to see who lands where. If you ask me, I would assume Alvin Kamara would be the kick returner. I would assume Ted Ginn would be a punt returner. But our colleague Josh Katzenstein did a good story. He caught up with Bradford Banta, the new special teams coach, and they've been doing some different drills that I have not been really have seen much around here over the last few years. And it's a new coach and a new outlook. And I think, as Jeff alluded to, look, they needed to make some changes on special teams. And the long snapper thing we're going to be following because there's going to be a new long snapper.
I think it's a great point Jeff makes. It's a question that I have is what are these special teams going to look like under Bradford Banta? We don't really know. We won't know until we see some preseason games. I think the return positions are both going to be new. I expect Ted Ginn will handle punt returns. Kamara and potentially Daniel Lasco will be on kickoff returns. And how are they going to handle coverage units? That's always been an issue with this team. They've got a lot of core special teams guys back with Mike Maudie and Chris Banjo and Jake Lampman. A lot of those guys saw a lot of reps a year ago, but I think those jobs are open. And the kicking game, I think, is solid. So I agree. I think that's a critical factor and something that is probably needed here just to have a different voice in the room. Greg McMahon was well respected. He's working at LSU right now with Coach Ogeron. It's not that Greg McMahon doesn't know what he's doing on special teams, even though they were never among the league leaders. I think his concepts probably just got a little old, and they needed a new voice and a new way of doing things to energize those units.
I feel like they have some new concepts, even just working and the practices we've seen so far. So, yeah, it's something we're going to watch. We'll get a good feel for it during preseason, see how those guys, because that's where jobs are won, and we'll see who's in there and some of the things that they're doing. Let's take a quick break right here on Dunc and Holder to get involved, 504-260-1280. Again, open phone lines. We kind of did it on design because we saw a lot of practice this weekend, given our observations. We want your observations as well. You can also chime in on YouTube Live and get a question in there as well. So we're live broadcasting on Airline Drive in the Pelicans Media Center on Sports 1280. Of course, you're home for Pelicans basketball. NOLA.com and the iHeartRadio app. We're Dunc and Holder.
Your forecast on Sports 1280, New Orleans.
This report is brought to you by...
All right, 3 minutes.
Happy Monday from the Fox 8 Weather Center. I'm meteorologist Shelby Latino. Temperatures will climb into the low 90s this afternoon with mostly dry skies. Just a small chance for a stray shower out there, and we'll see a mix of sun and clouds. We'll see temperatures falling into the mid-70s overnight and then back to sunny skies and highs in the low 90s tomorrow afternoon. From the Fox 8 Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Shelby Latino. Have a great day.
Mattress Firm is collecting new school supplies to help get local foster kids ready for the new school year. Join Mattress Firm in helping foster kids in your community by donating new school supplies to a participating Mattress Firm store or donating online at mattressfirmfosterkids.org.
I ordered some Andro 400. I'm losing weight, too, around the belly really quickly. Some of the pants that didn't fit me, now they're falling off my hips. There's been a noticeable increase in energy. then this stuff works. It does work.
That's what Bill said after taking Andro 400 for a month. Now listen to what Richard says about Andro 400.
I did a lot of research on it before I ordered it because I've tried other products in the past and they haven't worked. But this, I could not believe the difference literally within a month. Since I started taking it, I have lost 37 pounds. It was the belly fat. I could get weight off, but I could never get the tummy off. Now the tummy's coming off, and I have more energy than I've had in 20 years.
Guys, if you too want to lose belly fat, gain energy, and feel 20 years younger like Richard, try Andro 400, the safe, natural, and affordable way to boost your testosterone. Go to andro400.com or call 888-400-0435. That's 888-400-0435.
Hurry in. For a limited time, get big savings on automotive batteries while they're hot. Visit AutoZone today for hot deals on the parts and supplies you need. While heat causes battery fluid to evaporate, which could damage your battery, Duralast batteries are designed to beat the heat, tested to start your car at up to 167 degrees Fahrenheit. And right now, you'll get a $20 AutoZone gift card by mail-in rebate when you buy select automotive batteries. Let's get you what you need. Restrictions and details apply. Limit 2.
Get in the zone, AutoZone.
Rich Eisen here. The Honda Accord is a summer standout. It's stylish, spacious, and thanks to the available 278 horsepower V6 engine with sport mode, it's got moves too. It even comes equipped with Honda Sensing, a suite of available safety and driver assistive technologies like the collision mitigation braking system. It helps bring the Accord to a stop when it senses that there could be an impact. So hurry into the Honda Summerbration sales event where well-qualified buyers can score a hot deal on a 2017 Accord.
Napa know-how.
Any car brave enough to withstand a decade's worth of multi-state family voyages is worth treating to some quality parts and Napa know-how. Coolant for the Death Valley trip, wiper blades for the Pacific Northwest, air fresheners for the Southwest chili cook-off. Yeah, with some quality parts and a little Napa know-how, you can keep your road warrior running longer, stronger, for many
All right, here we go.
to come. That's Napa know-how.
Napa know-how. Your teams, your Sports 1280, New Orleans.
Duncan Holder back at you up until noon. 12-2, Josh Ennis. 2-4, Jordy Holtbergen. From 4 to 6, Corey Johnson. And then before us each and every day on Sports 1280, Chris Gordy from 8 to 10. Of course, bringing you all local talk all day long up until the 6 o'clock hour. So, Jeff, Saints practice, day 5 is in the books. It just wrapped up, and they will have the off day tomorrow and then crank back up on Wednesday to get that thing going. And, look, I'd say the last 3 days have been physical practices, and it's exactly what the Saints were out there looking for. But, Jeff, I know Jeff from Kenner, our caller at 504-260-1280, brought up a point, and you kind of wanted to expand on some of the conversation we were having before the commercial break.
Well, here's my point. I don't want to be Debbie Downer on the defense. The defensive.
Allow me to do that then.
But, Jeff, you made a good point. The defense did play better in the second half, but who were they playing against? And that's what I would point out. The second half of the season, they really didn't face a lot of top quarterbacks. So if you look down the list here, the 49ers, Colin Kaepernick, and then you got the Denver Broncos. Who was the quarterback then when they played Denver? Was it
Trevor Siemian?
Trevor Siemian. Then the next week you got Cam Newton. Okay, Cam Newton had, by all accounts, a down year, was injured. Then you got Jared Goff against the Rams. Matt Stafford is a top quarterback. He scored 28 on them and won the game. Then you got Jameis Winston a couple times, who I still think the jury's out on Jameis Winston.
I agree.
Not been impressed with him. Arizona Cardinals, obviously Carson Palmer can play. He got 41 on them. And then we all watched that debacle in Atlanta when they played Matt Ryan. I mean, I think they could have scored 70 on them if they wanted.
They shut it down.
They completely shut it down and just kind of cruised into the second half of that game. So while I agree they played better, the schedule this year is much more difficult in terms of quarterback play, who they face. They've got – this is from Warren Sharp's preseason annual. Last year the Saints defensively faced the 9th easiest offensive efficiency schedule, and this year it's 27th, so it's one of the hardest. They're playing guys like Tom Brady and Aaron Rodgers. the upgrade in quarterback play that they're going to face is pretty dramatic. And I think that's why we hear Sean Payton saying over and over, we got to get better at cornerback. He knows they're going to get picked on by these top quarterbacks, and a lot of them they face early in the season. So I think that's an area where the jury's still out, even with Delvin Breaux back healthy, even with the first-round pick Marshawn Lattimore. I think it's still a question mark.
Let's go to Kenny Vaccaro. Let's hear what he has to say. Of course, he's the most veteran on that secondary by far, honestly. This is his fifth year, and who's the next person up there? I guess you could count Raphael Bush, but he just came back. But, yeah, he's, of course, being relied upon to be a playmaker, and Kenny Vaccaro talked about just what the Saints needed to do improve defensively. Let's give it a listen.
Situational awareness. We need to be a team that understands what to do in the red zone, what a team's like to do during 2 minutes, what are teams doing at the end of the game, halftime, what's the down and distance, are we up, are we down, situations like that. Is it 4th and 1, you know? And that comes with veteran guys being on the field. When you're a rookie, you really don't understand those things. I remember my rookie year, I was out there with my head cut off just flying around hitting people. Didn't matter to me. But as I've got older, I've realized you can start eliminating what the offense is trying to do based on the situation, the formation, and what time in the game it is.
And I think some of that is going to be a bit of a learning process for even, well, definitely for a guy like Marshawn Lattimore. When you talk about, they're not just going to play man-to-man all the time. You've got to learn situationally and be able to identify and make a play. But look, let's be honest. P.J. Williams, he's played in 2 NFL games.
Exactly.
He's got to be part of that. Von Bell, he's played 1 year, and he saw his role change in the final 4 games of last season because Kenny Vaccaro went out. They had to put him in a Vaccaro role, and he struggled. And so you've got to do that. If you want Marcus Williams to play more, that's part of that as well. So it's we could talk about some guys, and they look talented, but they got to know what they're doing out there, and obviously that's part of the process right now.
Well, they're going to rely heavily on these last 2 or 3 draft classes on defense. So you got a lot of young players, and while this team is going to be more athletic, I think, on the defensive side of the ball, they're going to be more inexperienced in some areas. We've talked earlier about Lattimore and Anzalone and guys like that stepping up. David Onyemata, Sheldon Rankins has only played half a season. So that's why I think we saw them invest in some veteran free agents, Raphael Bush, A.J. Klein, Monte Te'o. You know, those guys, I think, come in with some skins on the wall, and in those meeting rooms, we know that Sean Payton always likes to have at least one veteran, oftentimes more than one, in each position group that can kind of be the mentor and break down film and you know, concepts and educate some of the younger players, just what Kenny Vaccaro was saying, because they're going to have a lot of young guys on the field this year, and offenses are going to pick on them and target these young guys until they can prove that they can survive in an NFL game.
And, of course, one of the major young guys that you're going to be talking about is Marshawn Lattimore. He was with the first team defense this practice because Delvin Breaux sat out of today's practice. But let's hear what Dennis Allen had to say about the maturation process so far for the Saints' first-round pick of the 2017 draft, Marshawn Lattimore.
Well, look, I thought the first 2 days, I thought he did some really good things. You know, still as a rookie player, you know, there's a lot for him to learn. So the main focus for him and the main thing for him is just, look, concentrate on trying to get better every day. Really focusing in on his technique. The thing I like about him is he's in shape. He came back a few pounds lighter than what he came here initially after the draft process, and I think that's the start, you know, but just getting caught up to speed, not really on what we're doing, but really how the offense is trying to attack him.
Jeff, exactly what your point was.
Yeah.
They got to know how offenses are going to try to attack them.
Well, we've talked to Dennis Allen enough to know you can read between the lines on his answers, just like you can with Sean Payton, and you can hear that he is tempering enthusiasm and lowering expectations for Marshawn Lattimore in that answer. Look, he's a rookie. The code words, he's a rookie. He's got to, learn. You can just hear that he's struggling a little bit, and it's to be expected. Again, but there was so much hype around Lattimore, the number 11 pick, the first cornerback taken at a need position for the Saints, and they are just trying to ease him into the process here. That's why we see P.J. Williams out there starting with Delvin Breaux.
Let's take one final break here on Dunc and Holder as we are live at the Pelicans Media Center. Of course, the Pelicans are heard each and every game on our sister station, WRNO 99.5, just across the dial, and just next door to us when we're in house. But we're live at the Pelicans Media Center here on Airline Drive. And Jeff, you mentioned one player who got a lot of pub once they got the pads on, and that's the guy replacing Nick Fairley right next to Sheldon Rankins. That's David Onyemata. We heard from defensive coordinator Dennis Allen and his teammate Cam Jordan on David Onyemata's progress coming up in our final segment on Sports 1280, NOLA.com, and the iHeartRadio app. We're Dunc and Holder.
The more you talk, the more things sound the same.
Welcome to the grind.
This one is gone.
The day in, day out. One series to the next.
100-mile-an-hour struck him out.
The Cakes take on the Sacramento River Cats tonight at 9. Your home for the New Orleans Baby Cakes. Sports 1280.
A Wendy's Frosty is something special, and for a limited time, a Frosty is just 50 cents. An American classic for a classic price. It's not quite a milkshake, not quite an ice cream cone, it's definitely chocolate or vanilla. That choice is on you. Use a spoon or a French fry. Anything goes. A Frosty makes summer special. Yep, there's nothing quite like a Frosty, and there's nothing quite like this deal. A Frosty for 50 cents. Get yours before this deal melts away.
Small Frosty only at participating Wendy's for a limited time. Offer not valid in Alaska and Hawaii.
Hi, Tom Bodette. According to the dad bod craze, the lumpy, less than chiseled look is now totally in. So you could say I'm in the best shape of my life. And so is Motel 6. They've updated their properties nationwide with contemporary everything, still for the same low price you've come to expect. So your wallet can feel a little pleasantly plump, too. I'm Tom Bodette, and we'll leave the light on for you. Book online at motel6.com.
AutoZone presents the oil change. Regular oil changes protect your engine from wear and tear, helping your car roll well beyond the 100,000-mile mark. And right now, you can get 5 quarts of Valvoline conventional motor oil and an STP filter for just $23.99. So visit your local AutoZone. With over 5,000 locations, the right supplies and good advice are just around the corner. Let's get you what you need. See store for restrictions and details.
Get in the zone, AutoZone.
The Alpha Kappa Alpha sorority presents the Healthy, Wealthy, and Wise Back to School Family Health Expo. It's Saturday, August 12th at the Dryads YMCA, 10 until 2 o'clock. The day will include school supplies and health screenings. The D&D Youth Organization is a mentoring group that teaches using the discipline of boxing. Come to their fundraiser on August 19th featuring Greg True Champ Davis. Go to dndyouth.org. A message from Sports 1280 Communities, helping to make a difference in New Orleans.
She didn't just visit the sick and poor. She moved in with them because they needed help. Mother Teresa couldn't do it all, but she gave her all. Compassion. Pass it on.
All right, here we go.
For a better life at values.com.
Shaka Khan, let me rock it, let me rock it, Shaka Khan. Dunc and Holder now. Josh Innes next at noon on Sports 1280, New Orleans.
A couple interesting updates as Sean Payton has spoken to the media after practice. Delvin Breaux missed practice today with an injury. He did not elaborate, and he also did not offer an update. Apparently, while we were on the air, Marshawn Lattimore left practice. So, have no idea what the severity is because we were not out at practice. So, hopefully, we'll get a bit of an update. Well, you can find it on NOLA.com after the show.
Here's my concern with Lattimore. He had chronic hamstring issues in college, and now he's practicing in triple-digit heat index. He's going to have to hydrate more than anybody out there. It was an issue with Chris Ivory. He cannot afford to have a hamstring issue, and I know that they're, I'm sure, on top of that, but it sounds like he was cramping a little bit. He came in lighter, as Dennis Allen said, so he probably wanted to drop some weight. But this is the learning process of a rookie player adjusting to the NFL.
Yep, someone who is seemingly adjusting to the rookie process in his second year. He's going to see a heck of a lot more playing time, potentially, than he did last year, is David Onyemata. And seems to be drawing praise from teammates, seems to be drawing praise from coaches, and they need that because Nick Fairley, he's let's say it, he's gone forever. He's never going to play for the Saints again. He probably won't play for anyone else ever again. So they got to find a person to fill that hole. And let's hear what Dennis Allen had to say over the weekend about second-year defensive tackle David Onyemata.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is he's a lot more comfortable in his fundamentals and his techniques and the things that we're going to ask him to do. You know, I think last year he was still kind of learning the NFL game. You know, he'd spent a lot of time playing in Canada, but I'm excited about David. I think he's got an opportunity to have a really good year. But again, you know, that's all into the projections of what's going to happen down the road. But I see. Look, where he started this year is ahead of where he ended up last year, and that's what we want to continue to see is that little progression.
And Jeff, Onyemata's history, he played football in Canada, and is he from Nigeria? I forget which country he's from.
You got me. I know it's something like that.
Forget.
His background.
Yes. Basically, he hasn't been playing football long. It's just not a case of Akeem Hicks who got booted out of LSU because of something really kind of not his fault. And then had to go play college football in Canada. This is a guy who moved from Africa to Canada and basically just took up football. Like this isn't somebody who played football his entire life.
I think what's happened here, and I haven't talked to Dennis Allen about it, but I think when they lost Fairley, they probably surveyed the landscape. They brought in Tony McDaniel, but their first plan is for Onyemata to be the guy. Let's put the young kid out there. He's got a high ceiling, give him a ton of reps, and accelerate the learning curve with him because the clay is moldable here. This is good clay. He's 6'4", 300 pounds. He's very athletic. Even last year you could see how athletic he was.
He improved as the season went along.
You could see it coming, but he hasn't played a lot of football like you said. But let's try to accelerate the learning curve. And he's the clear starter right now. I don't think there's any doubt that they're going to go into at least preseason games with him and Sheldon Rankins. And he's going to get every opportunity to win that job. And I like that idea. I mean, this guy's got a higher ceiling, so you want to try and get to that ceiling as quick as you can.
Cam Jordan, of course, is right next to him, mentoring him along the way. And Cam had some pretty nice things to say about David Onyemata as well.
David is heading into his second year. I've been saying that he's got a high ceiling. He's progressing. He's no longer just a meathead moving forward. He's starting to get his hands right, and at the end of the day, that's all you can hope for is his progress. He's also pushed by Rankins over there, and that guy, he's a hell of a pro already. He's just heading year two. I'm excited about those two young guys. And then, of course, you bring in Trey, Alex Okafor, Kikaha. There's a lot of guys on the edge that I'm just excited to see, and they're progressing rapidly at this point. Again, over the next 12 days, 13 days, 14 days, whatever the day count is again, I'm so excited just to see how we progress. There should never be a day where we're stagnant. There should never be a day where we say, hey, we've taken a step back. We've got to push forward every day.
Jeff, I don't want you to just be a meathead. I need you to push forward.
Meathead moving forward.
Meathead moving forward.
I love it. I remember Scott Fujita used to call them meat necks. Very similar term.
Well, Hollis Thomas was around, and he certainly had a meat neck. I think that would certainly be the case.
I like Cam's pronunciation of Kikaha.
Kikaha.
I don't think I've ever heard that before.
He's always, on purpose, I think, mispronounced his name.
Yeah.
He calls him Keeks,
Kikaha.
or How, or Kikaha.
But look, he makes a good point. We hear a lot of praise for Rankins, too, from not only from Cam Jordan, but also from Sean Payton. And I would say, that's a position, as we're out here at camp, and we're trying to watch all these moving parts and bodies flying around. That's one that's hard for us to evaluate because they're always inside in the scrum. You don't know what the defensive tackle is being asked to do on a certain play. And Rankins hasn't flashed very much, so I think there's this tendency to say, well, he's not doing much, when actually you hear from Jordan and from Peyton that both those guys are getting it done inside and have a lot of potential.
Dave, let's play one more soundbite real quick, and it has to be from Sean Payton and his thoughts on how some of these players have looked in pads, and he kind of mentions a couple of guys we're talking about here.
Well, Coleman was one guy. I think you're really asking about one practice because I haven't seen today's film. Yeah, I think the runners have done well. Kamara's done well as a young player. Arthur Millette, we've seen some good things from him. I think the 2 inside tackles yesterday were pretty good. Rankins and Onyemata. I thought Streep yesterday. I mean, those are just a few observations from yesterday's practice.
You hear Arthur Millette's name. You hear Brandon Coleman's name. Brandon Coleman actually spoke to the media just a few minutes ago. He says he's put on 10 pounds, so he's up to about 230, so 6'6", 230. And he was frank about his progression with this team. He says, it's my 4th year. It has to happen now. And I think everyone in this building and everyone on the outside looking in would agree.
He looks like a tight end out there. I mean, he's like a mini Jimmy Graham. But the thing that surprised me is that he's getting behind defensive backs. I mean, You don't expect that from him. He's more of a possession receiver with that size. But he's made all the big plays so far in camp. And he was the last guy I would have thought would have been doing that in Brandon Cooks' absence.
I agree. Well, another day, another Dunc and Holder in the books. If you missed any of it, check out our NOLA.com iTunes page, our NOLA.com SoundCloud page, and you can check it out on sports1280.com. I want to thank Chris Dabe, LSU beat writer for NOLA.com and Times-Picayune. I want to thank Todd Grappanini, the voice of the Tulane Green Wave. Of course, you can hear all his calls of Tulane football here on Sports 1280. So, for Jeff Duncan, I'm Larry Holder. Thanks again. Thanks, Luke, out here for getting us rolling at the Pelicans Media Center. We'll be back out here on Wednesday, and we'll be back in studio tomorrow. So for Jeff, I'm Larry.
Meathead moving forward.
And all the meatheads moving forward. We need all
meathead
that.
moving forward.
Dave is our meathead moving forward for all of us behind the glass. So thanks again, and we'll be back here 10 a.m. to noon tomorrow. Dunc and Holder.
This is a Crime Stoppers Most Wanted Alert.
Crime Stoppers is asking you to speak up if you can help locate Shanta Massey, wanted by the NOPD for the murder of Jaron Johnson on December 6, 2015. Anyone with information on